I think it would be churlish to think there was a worst actually in doing what we do. There are always aspects, I think, to anything that anyone does that are probably less than ideal. But I honestly think, like, taking the Cure as the big picture of the Cure, it's very difficult to complain about any of it. Really. It's most of it's really good.
The only bits that are bad is the actual travelling to get to the nice bit, the bit that's on stage. That's what the Cure is really. But unfortunately, in these days where we don't have sort of space travel from concert to concert, you have to go sort of like slowly, and it's sort of like that's quite wearing, especially as you get older.
I felt like it was space travel coming to Mexico. Yeah, because the Cure is essentially it's a creative process. The whole thing is to do with like making something from nothing and performing, and all that side of it, the artistic side, is really, it's gratifying, and you can't complain about it. But it's a business in a funny way. I mean, we employ people, and there's a side of it which is very dry. The decisions have to be made, and things have to be, you have to book things, all that side of it. But you can't really complain about it because it facilitates, like Simon says, the good parts. You have to get on the plane in order to arrive in Mexico. So it's not, we're not very good travellers actually as a band. We never have been. We like getting to B from A, but we don't actually like the bit in between. So, but yeah, there's nothing. You look around. There's very little you could really complain about being in a band like the Cure. You can stop. We probably actually would be the Lost Kafka book. It feels like I'm living in a Kafka story most of the time. I don't know really what kind of book it would be. It really depends what day you catch us on. It could be a book about lost memory on some days, like today. What is memory and where does it go? That's today's Cure book. I don't know. It's a very difficult question. It's far too difficult at this time of day. Come back in 7 hours and I have an answer. We'd be a cartoon, I think, actually, wouldn't we? We'd be a comic book. We'd be a graphic novel.
Yeah.
Does the Cure love?
I think so, yeah. That's a bit of a big question, that.
These are tricky, aren't they?
You can
I'm tempted to open that bottle if you come to that. I think that when we're on stage with this lineup, with the four-piece, it's a very different feeling on stage, isn't it, than we've had for a long, long time. And I think that probably equates. It may not be love, but there's a real, for me, having Simon Paul either side and Jason behind me, it's a really powerful feeling. It's something that I haven't experienced for a long, long time. And I feel there's an intensity on stage which kind of equates to something, if not love, then it's like a real sense of communion. There's a real purpose about what we do, and there's a feeling that if we engage the audience in the right way, something happens. And it's a long, long time since I felt that, and it's I've missed it actually. I've missed it a lot, and it's very nice to get it back. I think that's probably the closest that we get as a band to some kind of feeling that we all have the same feeling. When we reach that and we kind of look at each other, we know that we're all thinking the same way and we're feeling the same thing. It's really good. It's a really nice thing to have, particularly at our age. It's a lot easier to have when you're younger. It's us against the world, and it's very, you kind of almost take it for granted that you're all pushing in the same direction. But far too often in the last sort of 10 or 15 years, I think that the Cure as a band has not pulled in one direction. I think there have been one or two members who have just kind of along for the ride, and I don't think that's the case at the moment. I think it's there's a real sort of sense of purpose with what we do, and that generates a very strong feeling. It's I don't know whether we all love. I'm struggling to think whether we all love anything in particular. Actually, I get the four of us to agree about what we love. Vanilla ice cream, perhaps you probably wouldn't need that. Like vanilla ice cream, chilies maybe.
Yeah,
hot food.
I went to Paris to Rome, and then come back and start working with them.
That's a really weird. Again, this such wide question, because I think you take any member of the band, and they would see it in a different way. I mean, some of us would put sadness, bury it in the sand. Others would embrace it. I don't know. It's a really weird question. Again,
there have been times just in the last couple of years where there have been some very tragic events that have happened within the group, and I think that it's a testament to the character of the group that we've responded as a group to what's happened. I think that's we haven't kind of like run away from it. It's something. I mean, as you get older, and it's one of those. That's an obvious thing to say, but you're bound to have experienced more sadness, and unfortunately, life tends to, it seems to get darker as you get older. Actually, I think it's inevitable. So, although I think we have very good lives, and we enjoy what we do immensely, there are things that make individual members of the band sad. I think the test of it is whether the group as a whole kind of like pulls together and acknowledges it and deals with this. Sounds like Drew Springer. I mean, if someone within the group's sad, I think the other members of the group, I mean, part of what it is to be in a band, it should be that you're friends with each other, and therefore you don't really think about it. You naturally want to help the other person. You don't kind of ignore the fact that they're feeling a certain way. But again, in the past, that hasn't been the case. I think there have been times when the band with the last place I would look for kind of comfort. Whereas now I feel a lot kind of more. I feel a lot happier being sad in the group.